Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into Hoopsville on this Thursday evening. It is the 24th of January and 2019, just to be clear. We are turning a corner here in the Division III basketball season. I'm your host, Dave McHugh, coming to you from the WBCA NABC studios with help from our friends not only at the WBCA, NABC, and of course D3Hoops.com, but also Blue Frame Technology. If you've got questions for us throughout the show or at any time, you can always email us hoopsville at D3Hoops.com. You can also tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us hoopsville at D3Hoops.com or join us on Facebook, facebook.com/Hoopsville. Those are the ways to chat with us, and we hope you'll take advantage of them when and if you're interested. We know we have a number of good friends who do so, and we always enjoy that, to say the least. We also get conversations throughout the week as well. We'll get to who we have on the show here momentarily, but we should start with quote-unquote breaking news. NCAA convention is going on right now. You might remember, if you're good friends of the show over the years, that we have gone to that on several occasions. Obviously, we're not there as we are in the studio here, but it depends on who you're talking to, but a first all-association vote in at least a handful of years, some say 11, has just taken place in Orlando on this Thursday evening, and a change is coming to the Board of Governors. Now, the Board of Governors is the overarching board that runs the NCAA. It's always members of the NCAA institutions, not and conferences, not those technically in the offices. While some are in the offices are on that, like Mark Emmert, he doesn't vote. They have changed it per the basketball investigation in Division I that has been taking place for a year or so now, per the Rice investigation, the independent counsels group, or independent counsel is a bad term, but independent investigation, to try and get more voices into the NCAA, especially from technically outside of the NCAA, or at least not member institutions. It's a little complicated. We put out an article earlier today, an op-ed earlier today, saying why I thought the Division III had a chance here to leverage this opportunity. They had a chance here to say to Division I, this is yours, this is your issue, this is your push. That means we need one of two things from you. Either we get one of those 5 seats, and that means somebody at large who's a Division III individual, whether it's as pie in the sky as a Cecil Shorts III of Mount Union who played professional football, or a London Fletcher, or whomever you want to choose that played professional sports, or at least has a big say in it and is a Division III student athlete, or somebody else of that ilk, and there's quite a few. They are either put on the board to represent Division III, or my more pie-in-the-sky idea was, we want a higher percentage of the budget. We need to figure out how we get more money into Division III so that we can run our championships a little bit better. And as a result of running those championships a little bit better, we can have fairer competition, on top of the fact that you all at Division I look at Division III with these, this is the way we should do it. These are true student athletes. This is what we should celebrate. Okay, celebrate it then. Help us out. Give us a little bit more of the Division I money, and we will go along with this vote. We will go along with not necessarily having a guaranteed extra seat at the table. Because you have to understand, Division III only has 2 of what are 20 seats, 16 of them voting. Division II only has 2 of that same allotment. These 5 additional seats will now outnumber Division II and Division III combined. And I had started to hear that Division III, we heard it Sunday with Chris Martin's interview from the CCIW, the commissioner, that there were some in Division III talking about voting against this idea. And talking with some others, I got the sense that there were more voices than I expected. And they could, remember, there's 450 some odd Division III members. There's 350 Division I, and there's 300 Division II, rough estimate numbers. There's an opportunity here for Division III to make a play. Is it a clean play? No. Is it using some tact? Oh, absolutely. They may need to get some Division II people on board, and I think from what I was gathering, there seemed to be some Division IIs who had the same mentality. This isn't our problem. We're here to help you. Here's how you can help us. Yeah, I thought of the idea a little late. Should have gotten this one out a little sooner. To be honest with you, it didn't come to mind. I didn't think it through. I hadn't had serious conversations about it. Long story short, from what we've gathered out of the convention, and I really wish they would stream these things or at least make them more available. They certainly tweet about them. There was some contention. There were some members, over 200 of them, who said, we don't like this. This is a D1 problem. But I think they had an opportunity there. Listen, 203 voted against it. There was some play there to really put egg on D1's face, because here's the deal. D1 wanted this vote on a Thursday. Normally, these votes take place on Saturdays, and they take place at the end of the convention after everyone has had meetings and conversations and whatnot and hear how. And even they call an issue forum on Friday, which basically discusses the topics that are up for legislation, also straw polls for future legislation and whatnot. It's basically what I would actually call a business session, but then on Saturday when it's actually voting, they call that the business. Anyway, the business session on Saturday is when they vote. And a few years ago, there was an all-NCAA vote to add women's volleyball to the sports, making it, remember, it used to be the Elite 89 award. Now it's the Elite 90. Well, that's because of women's volleyball being added. So that was how I feel is the last all-association vote. Now, this may be the first one where everyone was in the same room. The reason they had to do that was because Mark Emmert always gives his State of the NCAA, as I call it, speech on Thursdays of the convention. And the NCAA is going to want this vote tonight. You know why they're going to want this vote tonight? Now the media talks about it tonight, and they all talk about it tomorrow. If they voted all this on Saturday like they normally do, you're not getting as much media attention Saturday and Sunday, and maybe they all remember to talk about it on Monday. Yeah, that's why they voted for it on Thursday. But I also felt like that didn't give Division II and Division III a chance in their own meetings to really start having a conversation about it. Do we want to support this? And can't they listen? Division II might want to get something out of the deal. I don't know. But my point being is I felt there was less time. Am I against the proposal? No. I understand the idea of 5 extra members being on the BOG who do not necessarily represent institutions or represent bigger ideals. I think there's got to be some transparency. I think Division II and Division III need to make sure their seat is still at the table. But that is the breaking news. That has passed at the convention. That's about the biggest news that I think was going to be coming out of the convention here this year. In Division III world, there is a practice preseason change for football that's on the table that appears may pass. There is one for field hockey and soccer, kind of an acclamation type thing. That one probably won't pass, and the SAC is even against that one. There's a social media one, et cetera. There's some other things. We will talk more about it with James Wagner, who will be on the show later, and we look forward to having him. He's the assistant commissioner of the CSAC, good friend of the show, as you might remember, and we hope we'll hear from him about that. But again, I feel like Division III missed an opportunity here. And yes, I was late to the table in suggesting it. Not that everyone listens to me. Do not get me wrong. But several hundred people and higher, I should check, well over 300 or close to 300 people in the span of a few hours at least listened to the idea that we presented. I think it's probably worth the effort. I think the leverage could have been there. We'll vote for this if you give us more of a percentage. If you take Division III and meet them at the same percentage Division II is, take 3.18 to, I think 4.37. We increased Division III's budget on a yearly basis by $12.5 million by current numbers, or last year's numbers. $12.5 million. Can you imagine what Division III can do with $12.5 million to its championships when 3/4 of the money is already going to championships? And we're already spending, I think we spend $12 million just on one gender, if I remember the stats right, in championships. So $12.5 million more? One, you can do more for governance, you can do more for management, and you can do more for projects to support Division III institutions and support Division III student athletes. But you can also add more money to the budget to run championships, and we wouldn't be talking about can WIT and WIT be split. We wouldn't talk about in football two top 7 programs from the same conference playing in the first round. We wouldn't be talking about these other little things that we know challenge these championships for the biggest division in Division III. I think Division III had a chance to leverage it. Unfortunately, I don't know if anybody thought it out. And that's not a knock, because I just thought about it in the last 48 hours. It finally hit me. Wait, they can leverage this. If you got to bring Division II in, fine. Let's find out what Division II wants from the deal. I would argue, shallowly, Division II asking for more money is a little bit, you got a ton of money for the smallest division. But maybe there is something that they can guarantee for Division II. So I felt like there was a leverage point there. Unfortunately, wasn't thought. And here's the deal. Some people are like, well, Division I just says, forget it, we don't need you. We'll take our ball and go home. But they're not. Here's the deal. They're not taking their ball and going home. Division I also has other sports besides football and basketball. And football's not even an NCAA sport for the Power 5. They have other sports. Those other sports, those championships, are paid for by these contracts. Yes, I understand Division I brings in those contracts, but you think the money's going to be the same? Anyway, we can go down a rabbit hole, and I don't want to do that. But really interesting situation there at the convention. We'll talk to Wags, as we said, a little bit more about it at a later time in this program. Let's talk about guests real quick, then we'll do a quick recap of the top 25. We've got an interesting grouping on the show. A lot of teams that I think a lot of us were watching for most of the season going, okay, off to a good start. When's that going to end? One of them in particular being St. Thomas has a meteoric rise, as you could say, into the top 10. They're the 7th-ranked team in the country now. We all know the Tommies have been good in the past, but this is a different Tommies team. We'll have John Tower on the show to talk about that. Jason Leon from Oswego will join us to talk about his team in the same light. They knocked off Plattsburgh, which removed Plattsburgh from the top 25. Oswego did not enter. You may have heard of what Ryan and I thought of all of that on Sunday's show. Jason will be on the show to talk about Oswego, talk about the SUNYAC, talk about the East Region. We'll switch gears and talk to Carrie Jenkins, the Oberlin women's basketball coach in the WBCA Center Court. Huge proponent of diversity, not only with his team, inclusiveness, etc., but also in the NCAC and how that has changed the conference. But on top of that, how they've become more competitive. We'll talk to Carrie in the WBCA Center Court segment. Matt Wardenberg. I said Matt on the graphic. It's on our write-up. It's Adam. We will fix that. Adam Wardenberg, the head coach of Southern Virginia women's team, will join us. First-year head coach. Program is on top of the CAC. They have come out blistering. Maybe some questions in the CAC as to what happened. Well, we talked to Adam. The question you should ask is, how did you get hired? Because that is the best story of the night, at least at this point, that you may hear. We'll talk to Adam coming up in a pre-tape segment. And then James Wagner, as we mentioned, the CSAC Assistant Commissioner, will join us with a report live from the NCAA convention. Don't forget, Sunday will also be on the air at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. A week from tonight will be the marathon show. We haven't gotten a lot of details out yet. That's our fault, but we'll work on it. It will be a truncated show. A lot of you are used to our 12-hour marathon efforts. Without going into a lot of details, the 12-hour show just wasn't possible this year. Despite what you all, any fans of the show may know, wasn't due to threats from my wife, though that was in the back of my head. For varying reasons, personally, we're cutting back to, looks like we'll do about 8 hours. We'll probably go on about 12 Eastern and go until about 8 Eastern. That's our thought. We've already got some great guests lined up, and we hope to book up some more in the meantime. All right, so let's quickly talk about the top 25, at least starting on the men's side. We may get to the women a little bit later. Really quiet so far. St. John's lost to St. Thomas in a heck of a game on Monday. 74-72 in overtime. I got a great message here I want to read. I'll read it in a second. They came back and beat St. Mary's. I think St. John's and St. Thomas, what they really proved in that is that they're two very good teams. I don't think that's a knock on St. John's, and I hope the voters see that way as well. Lynchburg took their second loss of the season. Guilford's been this really wacky team in the ODAC, knocking off some good teams while having some weird results themselves. Guilford beat them 88-82 in overtime. Lynchburg, we told you, was in the middle of a heck of a grind here. They've got Randolph-Macon coming up, so Lynchburg's going to try and keep from going on a 2-game slide here with the 12th-ranked Yellow Jackets to play. Loris lost to Wartburg. I don't know if I'm surprised or not, though it's Loris's 4th loss. They may drop out of the top 25 as a result, but we told you that the American Rivers Conference was going to be a dandy on the men's side. It's proven to be that way. It may be a dandy on the women's side, but on the men's side, it's been outstanding. Wittenberg lost to DePaul. I think now the Wittenberg voters will disappear. 77-75 in overtime. DePaul, I've read from a few who thought that DePaul was a team to watch in that conference this season, but Wittenberg, I think at this point, is maybe showing its true colors, and even I missed that, and I've said that at the beginning of the season. Arcadia, in the receiving votes category, I voted for them. If you read my blog, they went and probably lost to Rosemont on Monday night, 89-86, but even from what I've heard, that may not be something you want to keep track of, though Rosemont wasn't even starting 2 of its senior captains or playing them. Arcadia's got Stevenson up next. That's the game we should watch. See how Arcadia bounced back against a really good Mustang squad. Salisbury lost to Christopher Newport 67-64. I think the wheels aren't coming off of Salisbury, but they've slightly derailed, to say the least. They got St. Mary's ahead, which I don't think is going to be a major concern. But the 15th-ranked captains get a win by 3 in that one. Eastern Connecticut defeated Amherst. Eastern Connecticut and Amherst do not get along this year. They're like oil and water in both men's and women's basketball. That's twice Eastern Connecticut has knocked off Amherst in men's and women's basketball, both at ill-timed because Amherst had really taken a leap into the top 25, and they lost by 19, 82-61. It also might mean that some of us are underrating Eastern Connecticut. And then Mount Union lost to John Carroll. We'll talk about the women on the other side. Get this nice note from a viewer. It says, despite the outcome of the NCAA vote, your thoughtful op-ed on it was much appreciated by those of us wary of future diluting of influence of Division III. Well done, and thank you. Thank you for your kind words about it. I appreciate it. Mark, aloha to you as well, sir. Appreciate you tuning in to the show. We're going to take a break because we got to get to a couple of guests really quick here tonight. We're going to get things rolling with the head coach of St. John's. I'm sorry, St. Thomas. We'll try that again. Head coach of St. Thomas will be on the show. Talk about the Tommies. Just how good are they? I didn't expect them to be right back in the top 10 and really in the conversation at that level already. Maybe I just completely misread the Tommies and I should have known better. We'll find out from the head coach of the Tommies. Coming up, you're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA and ABC studios. More Hoopsville when we return.
Football has taught me a lot throughout my life. It's definitely had a huge imprint on who I am as a person. Competing at a Division III level created that opportunity for me to go to college. Not only was I the first one in my family to graduate college, but I was really the first one to even go. Being the first one, I'm breaking that cycle, and now that I've graduated, I'm not sure what's the next step, but I know I have a lot of doors open. And a lot of those are open because I played football and ran track here at Otterbein.
The love of the game, but for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that, a lot more.
Sure, the game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics, and in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and I know how powerful words can be. The term gay doesn't mean stupid, lame, or less than.
So I pledge to speak up if I hear the term gay used in a derogatory way or any other homophobic terms.
If you can play in Division III.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and my teammates unconditionally accepted me as part of their family. So now I pledge to do the same for others. If you can play in Division III.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
We are the coaches of women's basketball. We are leaders and teachers, dreamers and winners. We are professionals who conduct ourselves ethically and with integrity. We place the education, safety, and well-being of the athletes we coach above all else and teach them the fundamental values they need to succeed in life. We are coaches united for the good of our game and those who play it. We are the WBCA.
Welcome back to Hoopsville. I'm Mike Meller, head coach of Messiah Women's Basketball and member of the Women's Basketball Coaches Association. We really hope you enjoy the show. Back to you, Dave.
Welcome back to Hoopsville. Thanks to the Messiah head coach at women's basketball for that nice rejoin. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us hoopsville at d3hoops.com or join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville. Look forward to hearing from all of you when you, if you've got questions or just sending along. And some of you just sent notes saying, hey, we're here. We appreciate that. All right, so on Thursday shows, we primarily talk about the East region, Mid-Atlantic, South, and West regions. In the West, it is going to be a dandy on the men's side when we see regional rankings. There are so many good teams. And I think St. Thomas has kind of reinserted their foot in the door, as it were. They, remember, were 14-12 last season, 19-8 the year before, of course, the 30-3 run in 2015-16. 14-12 told us a lot. They're going to retool. We understand that. Not a lot of expectations. So my expectations for this season were wait and see. Well, they lost the first game to Brooklyn 78-77. They haven't lost since. They've been on a tear, including a big win over St. John's on Monday, 74-72 in overtime, and then got past Concordia Moorhead. And one could argue could have been a trap game, 88-53. They got Carrollton coming up on the 26th. So what to make of the Tommies? Well, joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville Hotline is the head coach, our good friend John Tower. Coach, thank you so much for taking the time.
Hey, Dave. Thank you for having me on. Great to catch up with you.
Absolutely. Wonderful to have you. Again, first loss was 78-77. I've asked this a lot of people. It'll be a common theme tonight. Did you expect to be where you guys are right now when the season began?
Well, I don't know about that. Probably not after we lost our first game, and then we were tied with about 5 minutes left to Emerson, who had a big win last night over Babson. Yep. So, no, I think we'd rattle off 16 in a row after that with some really tough opponents. You never look at it like that as a coach. You know, I think you have a chance to win, but we're thrilled to be, in this position, and I just really love coaching these guys. They're a lot of fun to work with every day.
What's been different about this team? I mean, again, 14-12 last year, but someone expected. You lost some really good talent ahead of last year's season, and I know you brought back a lot this year, but what is it about this squad that is clicking so well?
Well, I mean, first off, I think last year was, certainly it was not a year we were thrilled with the record, but it was a great group of guys, and it was, coming off the 2015 team. I mean, really, we'd won 12 straight conference titles, one or shared.
Right.
And last year we had a younger group, for sure. We had a ton of injuries, and none of that's an excuse. It just is a reality. We lost a bunch of close games. We played a really tough schedule. And I think the confluence of those factors, led to the result. And, again, we didn't love the result, but it was a fun group to work with. And so at the end of the season, it was the kind of deal where you step back and you certainly evaluate everything in your program, from how we're coaching to how we're recruiting to what we're doing on offense and defense. But I think the consensus was, look, we're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater here. This is, we believe in what we're doing, and we think we're going to be more veteran, and we think we're going to be healthier. And we added some really good freshmen, and the result has been, to this point, a really, really fun run.
We should point out, we've talked a little bit about this, like Springfield on this show, where sometimes you get these really incredible records because, well, luck just goes your way. And that's just basketball. Sometimes the ball bounces into the rim and sometimes it bounces out. we should point out you're a putback shot away from being undefeated at this point, because that's how the Brooklyn game ended. But you also, in that incredible triple overtime game against Augsburg, you trailed in every single stanza. You trailed in the first half, the second half, and all three overtimes. Some things have gone your way, and in some ways you guys have really fought to be in the position you're in.
Well, yeah, and I think that's basketball, though, right? I mean, I think every year you can look at the years where things go magically and probably point to 3 or 4 games during the season, maybe more than that, where you found a way to win. 2011, our first national title, we trailed in the second half in 18 of our 33 games. And that team was really good, went 30-3, but it came from behind a lot. And so there are a lot of ways to win basketball games, but it's tough. I mean, our conference is really good.
Yeah.
5 different teams have been in the national tournament the last 2 years alone.
Yeah.
5 different teams in 2 years. We were picked 4th in the preseason, and based on last year, we were in 5th place last year. I mean, there's excellent teams and coaches and players, and so it's easy on the outside to think, why are these teams losing? Well, sports is a zero-sum deal where one team wins and one team loses, and it's hard. So the teams that have ups and downs, as a coach, you certainly understand them.
You're stealing all my questions. I was going to mention about the fact you were picked 4th in the conference after what happened last season and just the way things happened. But you guys have you've not only got a really tough conference, but you've got you don't have a lot of non-conference games, but those have been tough ones too. Let's start with the non-conference quickly, because we'll backdoor into the conference a little bit here. Emerson, as you said, I mean, they've beaten MIT and Babson now. They've shown to be a better team than maybe advertised. You took on Brooklyn, who I think is a little bit undersung a bit. Where you had River Falls in that scheduling as well. How much has it helped you prepare for what is, well, and by the way, we should point out you beat Stevens Point by 16. How much has those games prepared you for what is, we use the term a lot, a grind in the MIAC?
Yeah, we always try and do unique things with our non-conference schedule. And for us, it really started in the summer. We went to Costa Rica and Panama. So it was the second time we had done that trip with Beyond Sports and Josh Erickson. And that was an awesome bonding experience. The last time we did it was before the 2016 season. And Josh joked that, as long as we do the same thing, he'd be happy with us. The Brooklyn trip, we weren't, how much fun is it for our guys who are walking through Times Square? Yeah. We took the train to the game. We were in a snowstorm on the way to the game. Now, losing at the buzzer is not what you want. But then you're out there sightseeing together, and then we go to Boston and have a great couple days. Billy Curley is their coach who played for the Timberwolves. And so it was fun to spend time with him. And then, we played at U.S. Bank, first basketball game in the history of U.S. Bank Stadium, where the Final Four is going to be played. We played River Falls there. And got a good win, and then, St. Scholastica, and then the Stevens Point game. I thought that was a turning point for our program as well. I mean, I think we played them 12 times now in the last 10 years, and, they're just built on toughness and defense and everything that's right about basketball. And to get that win, a 16-point win on our home court going into the break, I thought was, some nice momentum. And since then, I think we've played solid ball in the conference, but there are, as you said, there are a lot of really good teams that on any given night, present great challenges.
Well, and you had that great game against St. John's earlier this week, and you said 5 teams in the NCAA tournament in the last 2 years. That said, it sounds great, but what do you have to, what's the message to the team, the rest of this grouping? I mean, you got nothing ahead of you is going to be easy in the conference because you still have St. John's ahead of you. You got Augsburg, who's showing some life and obviously sent you triple overtime. You got St. Olaf and others. How do you keep the guys focused on, yes, the game at hand, but understanding there's a bigger picture here we got to keep ourselves in play for?
Well, I think, first off, we have some great veterans. Our 3 senior captains, Connor Bear, Michael Hannon, and G.T. Johnson. I mean, these guys were freshmen on a national championship team, and last year they were on a 5th-place team in the conference. So they've seen everything from the ultimate in Division III. Their sophomore year, we lost a heartbreaker in the national tournament to Augustana at the buzzer, and they went to the national final. So that year, I thought actually we were really, really tough in 2017. Lost Grant Schaefer, All-American point guard, and some others off that squad. And so I think, we don't have to say a lot. I mean, our guys, we get really bright kids at St. Thomas, and they know they're picked 4th in the conference, and they know last year our record was 14-12. And they're humble guys, and they're hardworking. So it's really, it's not something we belabor, but we certainly remind them that nothing's promised to us. And they've, I think yesterday was a great example, coming off a good win against St. John's and a packed environment. And I think there's no doubt in my mind, St. John's has top 5 talent. They're great, really well coached. Like that, they're awesome. To beat them and then come out last night against Concordia and be up 25 at halftime, I thought that showed a certain maturity on our guys' part to refocus. Are
you allowed to compliment St. John's in that rivalry? Is that kosher? You're not going to get fined, are you?
Oh, the schools are really, like most things in life, the schools are probably far more similar than they are different, right? They're outstanding Catholic institutions of higher ed. Pat's an alum of his school. I'm an alum of St. Thomas. I mean, it's a fun rivalry, but they've got phenomenal players, and it's, the fans get into it, but I think the coaches, we've got a lot of respect for them and what they did last year and had an outstanding team, and they've got another one this year.
Talking with John Tara here, head coach of the Tommies, who are 7th ranked in the country. We'll talk about the team, and then we'll wrap things up. Anders Nelson, a freshman guard, leading the way at 16.5 points a game, and then 2 seniors in Connor Bear and Michael Hannon, 15.5, 8.5 respectively. The top rebounder on the team is Bear as well at 5 rebounds. So Nelson pulls down 4 rebounds and then hands out 5 assists a game with 2.5 steals. Let me start with Nelson because he kind of reminds me of a few guys you mentioned earlier, like Schaefer, in the sense that he's a real cog and a real catalyst.
Yeah, I mean, we've been blessed to have some unbelievable point guards at St. Thomas over the years, and, Grant Schaefer being one of them, Tyler Nikolai being another, Eric Tengwall was a 3-year starter for us, Sean Sweeney before them, Mark Burry was an All-American. I mean, we really, at that position, we've been fortunate, and, Anders has certainly stepped in as a freshman, and to do what he's done is pretty remarkable, and I think the best thing about him is he's very coachable. He's got a motor, and he loves to just go, which we want to play really fast and up tempo. But there are times we have to rein him in, and he's so curious and wants to. I mean, he has this quest for excellence, which makes it a joy to coach. When a guy, it's a little like raising kids, right? You'd rather have kids that you have to rein in and tell them knock it off a little bit than somebody you got to kick in the butt and say get going. And he's been, I think you rattled off the stats, but I think just his competitiveness and his love of the game has been special. And we're also playing a freshman at a backup point guard spot, Riley Miller. And so the two of them, and we've got a couple other freshman guards on the varsity that we're excited down the road for what I think our guards can be like.
I think the other thing too is you're 10 deep every single game. You are 10 deep. That is a huge advantage to have as the season wears on.
Yeah, we play. We've kind of been doing this line change thing a fair amount since the Stevens Point game. We don't do it all the time, but it makes it a little easier for the PA guy. He gets
no, it does not.
So we'll play 10 to 12 guys in most halves, and it's we like to play up tempo. We like to run. We like to press a little bit, and it's a fun way to play. We did that from about 08 to about 14, and in 16 when we won it, we were playing about 7 guys most games.
Much shorter.
And some people in Salem were a little disappointed, like, what happened? You're not pressing anymore. And I think it's one of the hallmarks of what we try and be adaptable. And if we can be deep and run, we're gonna. And if we aren't as deep, then we probably won't. But Mike Keating is my top assistant coach who runs our defense and does just a phenomenal job with, whatever we end up doing. It's just how do we piece this together and have a good game plan.
For the record, as a PA announcer, no, line changes are not easier, John. Yeah, that's 5 names I got to rattle off in a very short period of time versus 1 or 2. No.
Or you just say, the other day, a guy at a road game, you just say there's a line change for St. Thomas.
Yes, I've done that before.
That's what I meant.
I did that in a game with my alma mater one time. I don't know why, but we were in a jokative mood in the game, and I just went, Goucher, substitutions, line change for the other line. And I even got a smirk out of the coaching staff. They aren't doing that as much. Real quick, I just wanted something that jumped out at me from the information Gene sent along, which he always does a great job of, which kind of blew my mind. Your 8th season, you took over for obviously a great coach, now you're retiring AD, but you now have the 2nd highest active winning percentage in Division III, 6th highest winning percentage in all of NCAA men's basketball. You not only took what Coach Fritz had, but you made it better, and now you've got – those are incredible numbers to consider 8 years into your term.
Well, I mean, thank you. I don't know that we've done anything better. I mean, Coach is a legend, and he just retired after 52 years. We have a new athletic director, Phil Eston, who I graduated with the same year at St. Thomas, and we're excited to have Phil on board. But, all I'll say about that, Dave, when you win a lot of games, it's a reflection of the players you have and the assistant coaches. And we don't have any full-time assistant coaches at St. Thomas, which is kind of an anomaly these days. But I do need to recognize those guys, Mike Keating and Josh Rodenbiker and Will DeBerg and Tim Jarmus. I mean, they're tireless, and it certainly is a full-time thing during the season. But what they do is incredible. And so, our record, I think, is something we're proud of, but it reflects really a lot of unselfishness and hard work by the players and coaches. And you're humbled and proud to be a part of it, especially at a university like St. Thomas.
Did you expect to be a top 10 team this season, or even at this point in said season?
I don't think we ever think about those kind of things. I remember we scrimmaged 2 Division II teams, and one of my assistant coaches, we got our butts kicked by both of them. One of them, he's kind of the eternal optimist, and Tim said, we're going to be really good this year. And I was like, did you just watch the same scrimmage that I did?
That's awesome.
So he's reminded me of that after every victory. But I mean, you really don't. The year is so long and games come fast and furious that you really don't pay attention to that. You pay attention to really 2 things. Are we getting better, as a program on a day-to-day basis? And then how can we help the student athletes, grow as people? And if you do those 2 things, I really believe the wins and losses, you can't control bounces at the last second of a game, but you can control sort of overall what's the culture of your program. And I think we've done a pretty good job of that.
Well, congratulations on what it has been so far this season. Really impressive. Congratulations on what has been for a career as well. Good luck the rest of the way. I know we'll be talking about the Tommies down the road. I know you and I will catch up. In the meantime, as you know, we always give the guests the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuning in?
Well, I'd like to thank all our players, especially our 3 seniors. Connor Bear is having an unbelievable year. Michael Hannon came back for a 5th year, and G.T. Johnson is our defensive stopper. They all play great roles, and so it's an honor to coach them. This week we've been doing the sneakers for Coaches versus Cancer, and as you know, my significant other, 5 years, Chancey Anderson, has had cancer. She got diagnosed this summer, so that's been a bit of a roller coaster, but she's as tough and good a person as you could ever find. And so it's, I think it's nice to have the coaches unite and pull together for a cause like that. And so I'm just grateful for all the support that we received.
Well, wonderful. I hope your significant other is doing well. In the meantime, you guys continue to push on. We'll look forward to talking to you down the road. Take care of yourself.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. John Tower joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville Hotline. Appreciate him taking the time to join us. I guess maybe I felt like everybody else. We knew John Tower is a good coach, and we know that they recruit well, but we figured after 14 and 12, they would reemerge in the conversation. Certainly, they were going to be a battle-tested team who's going to make the MIAC interesting. And the MIAC's fascinating, by the way. He didn't have time. We can ask him on another time about scheduling, but I didn't expect them to after that Brooklyn game, to rattle off 16 straight and essentially be undefeated since and jump into the top 10. Really impressive. And it does. It makes that MIAC really crazy. And some people are already starting to look at the fact that Central and West areas are loaded with teams. Bracketing is going to be a challenge. So back to that $12.5 million a year, I'd love to have seen Division III leverage for. Maybe not all of it, but it could have made a difference. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll jump to the East Coast, stay with the men's basketball theme, and talk to Oswego, who kind of has the same story but a little bit different. We'll go to the Great Lake and talk to Jason Leon about his team and what he expects from the Lakers. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA and ABC studios. We're Hoopsville after this.
Being a part of the different activities and organizations that I've been a part of, I'm actually able to see myself where I'm like, hey, I actually can make a change. I'm one person that can make a difference.
Division III has helped me to develop teamwork skills, critical thinking skills, time management skills.
It's not just about basketball, or it's not just about school. It's about developing yourself as a person altogether.
Welcome to the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, home of Blue Gold Athletics. UW-Eau Claire has been ranked a top 5 regional public university for over 20 years. We graduate champions with the lowest debt and highest return on investment in the Midwest. Blue Gold Athletics is a Directors Cup Top 20 Division III program offering 22 sports with almost 700 student athletes. UW-Eau Claire is about excellence in the classroom, the field of competition, and the community. Are you the next Blue Gold?
My name is Marcus Walker. I was All-State, won a state championship, a high school All-American, and played college and pro ball. I played because I love the game. I grind to be the best. I sweat because I put in work. I'm strong because I believe. When I want to bring it before game time, I come to the house that college basketball built, the CBE. No matter your skill, take it to another level. Elevate your game right here at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center.
I coined my definition of success in 1934. My definition of success is peace of mind attained only through self-satisfaction in knowing you made the effort to do the best of which you're capable. It's like reputation and character. Reputation is what others perceive you to be. Character is what you are.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
In any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stand up.
To make our community safe for all.
It's on us. It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us, all of us.
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
We've got more schools than Division I, more fans than Division II, and more upsets than March Madness. There's 800 programs with over 11,000 games leading to 2 national championships. And we've been covering it all for over a decade. From Eastern to Occidental, from Puget Sound to Piedmont, from Southwestern to the University of New England, and from Hope to Calvin. Nobody covers Division III basketball like we do. We're at d3hoops.com at www.d3hoops.com.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody, here from the WBCA NABC studios. If you got questions for us, we got we usually have it. There we go. And you got our stuff scrolling at the bottom of your screen. You can find out how to interact with us. Tweet us, email us, Facebook us, whatever the case may be. I will go and check to see if any of you have left us some messages of late, as I got a little distracted talking to Coach Tower there and not looking over to see if any of you had asked us questions. Looks like it's quiet so far on the Western Front. All right, so switching gears to another program that certainly caught our attention. Listen, they've been on my radar for a little while. I can't think about the East region without thinking of our friends at Oswego. But at the same time, just when I started to get on the bandwagon a little bit and thought about going for it, they had a rough Christmas holiday break, they should say, at Emory, where they dropped not only a game to Emory, but then lost a game to Denison. Come back, won 5 straight, but the big one was against Plattsburgh, and now people are starting to talk about Oswego again. They're not in the top 25. Don't know if that means as much as it probably could, but it certainly gets them talking about, or gets us talking about them, and that means it gets us talking about them on this show, because as you know, we talk about the East region here on Thursday evenings. So joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville Hotline, it's the head coach of the Lakers. It's Jason Leone. Coach, welcome back to the program, sir.
Thank you for the introduction there, Dave. I appreciate you having me on. It gets me thinking. It's been 7 years since we've had you up here to see a game, and it hasn't snowed once since you've been here.
Well, so now you're lying.
You got no excuse now.
I love snow, so you got the wrong one. I don't mind coming up in the snow. I just can't believe it's been 7 years. Makes me feel really damn old. Hey, 14-2, 9-0 in conference play. There's a lot we can unpack here. Let's start with this. You coming off of a 14-13 season. I feel like I literally could take all the questions I just asked John Tower at St. Thomas and just insert them here. Did you expect to be here at this point in the season?
I thought we had a chance to be pretty good. I mean, we lost over the course of 2 years 10 really influential seniors. Went to the NCAA 3 years in a row, and last year we, by our standards, we had a substandard year. Although we did make it to our conference semifinals for the 7th consecutive year, which that's nobody else in our league had done that, and we really played well down the stretch last year. The 7 guys we had returning, our roster didn't look like we should be where we are right now at that point, but we were fortunate. We had a combination of a really good recruiting class. We are starting 3 Division II transfers, the 3, 4, and 5 for us. So we were fortunate in that regard. Some recruiting, but any coach would tell you the mechanism to be successful really is first dependent on your returning players and the improvement that they have and the amount of time they put in during the training period that starts after your previous season ends. And the 7 guys we had returning this year, I don't know if we had a better off season than what we had this year. And a big part of our success is the combination of those guys getting a lot better, and then the incoming guys that have inserted themselves into our program in a positive manner as well.
It certainly has been an impressive turnaround from 14-12 to the fact that you're already at 14-2, or 14-13. You're already at 14-2. This is obviously an improvement. Yeah, the semifinals maybe was a little bit of a hint, but you also now have a win over Plattsburgh, granted at home. You're going to have the return trip coming up in early February. You guys are now in the driver's seat of the SUNYAC to some degree. I think a lot of people thought this was Plattsburgh's conference and everybody else was playing for second place. And you guys, Cortland and Brockport, have once again said, or put everyone on notice, you sleep on the SUNYAC, and we remind you you made a mistake.
Yeah, well, you've said it before on your show, too, Dave. Our league, it's a topsy-turvy league, year in, year out. It's a unique league because we all cost the same amount of money, and academic standards here and there are somewhat similar. And when you have that, you're going to have parity. I wouldn't say that it's not Plattsburgh's league. We've had a pretty fortuitous schedule thus far, not to take anything away from our guys, but we have played all the top teams except for Cortland at home thus far. So you look at our schedule down the stretch, as you mentioned, we've got to go and play some teams on the road here, and but we're only halfway through this deal. So our players would tell you we've got. I think I've been most proud of is we've been very grounded through this whole thing, and I think that we still have a majority of guys that have been through this before and were on our team 2 years ago that won our league, went to the NCAA. So I think we're in a pretty good spot in terms of staying grounded and understanding. Look, we got a lot of work still left to do.
Yeah. Well, sure. We're not quite near the end of the season. There's still a grind ahead, and especially in the SUNYAC. Though you got 2 games at home here, you're enjoying at least a stretch here of back-to-back weekends at home. You will have only 2 more home games after that, or after this. You will have 5 more road games. The second part of this is not going to be, quote-unquote, as easy.
Correct. So we... look, it's at some level you're going to play 9 at home, 9 on the road. So I try not to analyze it too much as of we try to break it down into segments. But at the end of the day, I feel really good about our group. The numbers that we have put up thus far this year translate into having a successful season. We've been very productive defensively. We've most of the time taking care of the ball. We have really good three-point shooting, and we have 2 guys at the 4 and 5 that command double teams inside, and we have an incredible point guard. So, and we have balance. We have 5 guys averaging double figures. So, I think all of those 4 or 5 reasons I just mentioned say, I think we're in this thing till the end, but we're also not resting on our laurels at all as well.
Sure. We should point out your team is pretty efficient. You're 21st in the country in scoring defense at 64.5 points a game, and 28th in the country in total turnovers on offense, which means you don't turn it over all that often. So you're shutting teams down defensively and being wise with the ball offensively. That's a dangerous mixture.
Yeah, so, part of it, points per game is a very misleading statistic because, part of it is our pace of play. We're not a team that creates a ton of possessions during the game. We're a little bit different than a lot of the teams in the SUNYAC. If you look at, any type of efficiency numbers that, I actually get on and follow the night slappy efficiency stuff. I don't know how accurate it is, but we're towards the bottom of Division III in terms of possessions per game. So we have to play that way on offense in terms of taking care of the ball because we're not in the upper echelon in terms of running and pressing and doing all that stuff that promotes extra possessions. So, it's really important that we take care of the ball and that we're sound. We don't take a ton of chances defensively, but we are sound. We don't foul. We don't put teams on the foul line. We are good rebounding-wise in terms of we're a good offensive rebounding team. I think we're first in our conference in terms of letting up, the fewest number of offensive rebounds for our opponents. So, we're creating a lot of, situations where we're getting more opportunities to score than our opponents, which obviously is a productive way to look at winning.
Sure. Looking at what you guys have as a unit, you've got, I lost it. Where was it? There it is. 5 guys in double figures, led by Quinn Carey at 13 points a game, Brandon Gartland at 12, almost 13 points a game, Tyler Pierre at 11.5, along with Liam Sanborn and Joe Sullivan at 11 points a game. That makes it hard for defenses to figure out who they're going to isolate on any given point in time. That said, too, though, does it put more pressure on the bench when they need to sub in?
Yeah, that's been part of the deal with our team that we're still really pushing for is we've got this. We're still in a part of the season where we're trying to still develop a little bit more consistency from our bench. But part of that is our starters are very difficult to take out of the game. We're very physical across the board, 1 through 5. Part of our defensive identity, Dave, is we're able to do more switching than what we ever have done in the past because we have more guys that can guard multiple positions. When we go to our bench, those are guys that, other than a couple guys that are upperclassmen, those are our freshmen. And it's a little harder to switch with our freshmen because their bodies aren't as developed yet. And teams, rightfully so, try to exploit switching with going inside or on the offensive glass, and it's a little hard to do that. So we almost kind of play a couple different ways when we go to our benches compared to with our starters. But our starters are, we've got 5 guys that are legitimate Division III players that can play for a lot of people, and it's hard to take those guys out of the game. But having said that, we've had moments where our bench has played very, very well. But that's certainly, if you had to point to something that I want to see down the stretch here improve for us to have a chance to win our league, that's definitely one of the things.
You got a team that's shooting 45%, 38% from beyond the arc. There's a lot of good things you see on paper. You talk about the lack of depth on the bench maybe and wanting to see that improve. Is there anything that we should know as fans that best understands how this team's working so well together?
Yeah, I don't think it's anything that would be surprising to anyone. We've got really strong play at the point guard position. Our sophomore point guard, Liam Sanborn. One of the things about going 14 and 13 that was a really positive thing for us is Liam got to play and start every game as a freshman and cut his teeth in a very physical and tough league. And him doing that last year, I thought, was a very productive thing for him going into this year. He knew what to expect. He knew the things that he had to improve upon during this off season. And one of the things I'm really proud of with Liam is sometimes that we use the term sophomore slump in sports. Sometimes you think there's this natural maturation from, okay, I average 8 or 9 points a game. I started every game, and just naturally I'm going to be this much better statistically the next year. And what sometimes players, in particular college players, don't understand is like, you're moving up the food chain in terms of now you have teams that are game planning against you, or sometimes it's a freshman as a fourth or fifth option or not. And Liam really attacked his off season incredibly well, and I'm really proud of him. He's a very, very grounded individual, and he's from Staten Island. He's a tough nut. Like he'll get in a rock fight with no problem and come out swinging. So he's really good. But not to discredit all the other guys that we had that returned this year that did really well. Our captains, Tim Marshall and Alan Darudovic and Brandon Gartland, along with Liam, we've got a really solid leadership base there, and real proud of those four guys. We've really come out swinging, so to speak, this year, and have played with a chip on our shoulder, and that's really a proud moment for a coach to see their team doing.
Quickly before we let you go, quickly about the conference again. You guys have the lead at 9-0 in the conference. You've got a 2.5 game lead on Brockport, a 3-game lead on Plattsburgh and Cortland, with Potsdam just lurking about 4 games back. How do you see the rest of this conference kind of breaking out from here? Is Plattsburgh still the most feared team, or have their wings been clipped a little bit here now, and teams like Brockport and Cortland and yourselves are really the ones everyone should be watching?
Well, Plattsburgh has the best player in the conference. Jeff Patron is returning first-team All-American. So I would say until they get beat, when it really matters, they're the team that I don't want to speak for the other coaches, but they're the team that, when you get in postseason, Dave, the game gets played differently, which you've been covering this for a long time. You covered us when we had the kid Sortino, and where we got to the Sweet 16. The game changes in postseason. The game slows up. It becomes more of a half-court game. Coaches sub less, and that really benefits the team with the real dominant player. So for my taste, I would say, Plattsburgh is certainly a fearful team. I mean, you look at the games they lost. They lost on a last-second shot to us. They lost on a last-second shot to Cortland. They lost by 1 at Brockport. All 3 road games. So, I give them a lot of credit, and I still think until they're beaten, in the playoffs, they're the team to beat. But I think there's some real dark horses this year. We just played Potsdam to a 2-point game 2 nights ago, and I'm very impressed with the job that Jim Bechtel's doing there, and they have a continuity there for the first time in a while, and a group of kids that really plays tough and physical, and they're certainly a dark horse in the league. And then you have Brockport and Cortland and us, who have the cachet of being there before and winning it before. But the league, as I always tell you when I come on the show, we're got to be one of the only leagues in the country that has had 5 different champions in the last 9 years. I wonder if there's even any other league that can say that. So it really is a topsy-turvy league that year in and year out has a lot of good parity to it.
Well, it's certainly been fun to watch, though head-scratching at the same time.
No question.
Especially from us from afar. And again, I love snow, so I'll try and find my way back up there. Just happened to coincide with some hockey at the same time last time.
It always does.
It's true. It's true.
It always does with our school.
You got a heck of an ice rink.
We do.
And some
our basketball just not too bad either.
No, not bad at all. Especially, I love sitting up high in the middle, usually close to coaches' wives to listen to their take on things. Gives me some good insight. I always enjoy that.
How bad did she talk about me? My wife, that is.
What'd you say?
How bad did she talk about me?
Oh, no. That's privileged information, sir. I'm not allowed to divulge.
Okay.
No,
I appreciate that.
It's like lawyer, client, and doctor-patient confidential, especially when they don't even know who I am. I'm just some guy sitting near them.
You're just taking everything in, as you always do.
I'm a sponge.
You always have.
Jason, I appreciate the time. Thanks so much. We'll let you go, but we always give the guests the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuning in?
Again, thanks for having me on. Love being on the show. Love listening to this program. And every year, the website and everything you guys do, it's really fun to gather information. And I'm one of the people that reads. Most coaches won't admit this, but I read a lot of the post-up stuff, and the guys that post up in our region. And
oh, you guys got some dandies.
I get a lot. Yes, we do. But I get a lot of information from that. Some good, some bad. But it's great. It's great though. Honestly, it's a lot of fun to have that type of enthusiasm about Division III. And I also would just say to our fans and our people that follow our program that are listening tonight, like, whatever you can do, please keep coming and seeing us play and follow us down the stretch here. We got some really important games. We haven't started classes yet, by the way, so we don't start till Monday. So this 35 days has been a grind for us, and but we're getting started here on Monday, and it'll be nice to have some home games down the stretch. And I encourage our fans and people to follow the program, keep doing what you've been doing and following us. And I think we got a chance to have a special year here down the stretch.
Well said. Head over to Tim Hortons, get a cup of coffee for me. Then head to the bar across from the hotel, get a beer for me. Enjoy it. Imagine I'm there, and I'll try and get up there sometime in the future.
All right, buddy. I'm going to hold you to it.
Absolutely. You should. Take care. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Dave. Bye.
Jason Leon joining us from Oswego. Again, they are 14-2 overall. Those two blemishes, Emory and Denison, we didn't really dive into them, but I kind of know what Jason would have told us. 9-0 in conference play. Again, home against Fredonia and Buffalo State. And then they only have 2 home games of the remaining 7 to play. They'll play Cortland and Oneonta at home. Otherwise, they're going to have to deal with New Paltz, Potsdam, Plattsburgh, Brockport, and Geneseo, all on the road in the conference. If you're a fan of the show and you tuned into this often, you're going to catch this you're going to hear this next bit of information and not be all that too surprised. Our system has frozen again. We're going to have to shut it down and get it restarted for the stream, which means a second stream. If you're watching us on our show page on d3hoops.com, we will just replace the window there, and you just hit refresh. You'll see the new video player. Go ahead and click play once it's there, because once it's there, we're up and running. If you're on Facebook, we'll come back. If you're on Periscope, we'll come back. Just trust us. We apologize for it. We are working with a company to try and get it fixed. They haven't found a solution, which doesn't make it any easier for us. But we'll take a extended break here. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA and ABC studios. Back with more Hoopsville when we return from this